Do y'all already know about Kristi Noem? Like, is this... Okay, if you don't know, she's a politician for now. She's in South Dakota, and she has blown up. I mean, I'm technically late to the story. Like, she blew up on the news and every platform because everyone thought that she was like the front runner to be Trump's VP pick, and she released a book, you know, to just capitalize on that possibility. Was releasing a book around now, and in the book she tells a story about shooting her puppy. I know. And when I first heard about it, because I heard about it before I read about it, when I first heard about it, I was like, nobody's that dumb to just volunteer a story about them doing the one thing that'll bum everybody out across America, no matter what. Yeah, I mean, like, and she's telling the story, and she relays the story like a war story or something. And basically, she shot the dog, and then after she shot the dog, she was walking back to her house. I guess very proud of herself. And then she saw her goat, and she was like, I might as well, you know, because I got more than one bullet in the... And then she kills her goat, and then she told everyone. And I feel like there's a whole thing of politicians being out of touch, right? Like, you know, like sometimes you'll hear about a politician saying something, doing something, you know. Like a good example is like the way that people were during the pandemic, how they would just be like, oh, well, now's the time to dip into our savings. It's like, what are you talking about, hour, right? It's a very out-of-touch thing to say because you as a politician are very rich because every single one of them in Congress, usually at least, engages in some form of insider trading, and very few of them are trying to stop it, you know? So out of touch is one thing. Killing your dog and telling everybody about it. That sounds like somebody that wants to retire but doesn't know how. Like, you know what I mean? Like, political life's a bit much, but when I leave, I want to make sure they don't keep bugging me to come back, you know? I want to make sure when I'm gone, it's for good. Yeah. And she also... She keeps getting banned. There are a lot of reservations in South Dakota, and the leaders of each of these reservations keep voting and passing to ban her from stepping on the reservation, like ban her from the premises, which is like a good portion of the state. Like a lot of... I've never seen somebody get kicked out of outside. Like... Do you know what I mean? Because at a certain point, you just vote for them to get shot into space or something. Like, this is... Because I respect what the Native people were saying, because she was saying a lot about the reservation. She was saying that that's where all of the crime comes from, and that the cartels go through the reservation specifically. And they were like, not only do you not have proof of what you're saying, it's deeply offensive, and you shoot dogs. I don't want you anywhere around my children, my home, or anything. I feel like the only thing to do now is lock her in a room with Biden's dog. And like just for them to talk. You know what I mean? Just so like, you know, he could probably He can probably get through to her better than a human can. Because we already tried talking it out. I feel very blessed to live in this time. You know, I don't know if I lived in any other time if I would have made it. I don't say that in a self-deprecating way. I just look, I hear stories from my mom, stories from my grandparents, stories from just the past. I watch documentaries and I'm like, sounds rough. Yeah, I mean, and I'm from a rougher time than now because the present is usually better than the past, and it gives you hope for the future and everything. Like I remember when text messages weren't unlimited. I remember when, you know what's crazy? Before text messages were unlimited, there would be a lot of time where I'd want to text somebody. Maybe they were going through something, maybe they were, and I want to text them, but I only had so many. And remember minutes? Remember phone minutes? Okay, if anybody in here is very young, okay, so this is a rough concept to explain because it makes me sound like I'm from when the phone was invented. But for any of the younger people in here, just know that your cell phone, you making all these calls, your phones didn't used to be loose like that. Phones used to be much tighter, okay? Much stingier with time. They basically broke down your phone into minutes, and you had minutes that you could buy. They even broke down the day. Because at first, they charged you for minutes on minutes. Anytime you want to talk for an hour, it was this much you want to talk for. And then eventually, when they realized how to support more phones, they were like, listen, it's 25 cents a minute on your little plan, but everything's free after 5. And back in the day, after 5 o'clock, people's phones would blow up. People would... As soon as it hit 5 o'clock, it's like, I've been waiting to tell you. Like, the amount of times that it was like after 5, and then I got a call that actually was an emergency that I should have been called about at 2, but they didn't want to mess up their plan. So then they were weighing how badly I needed to know. The amount of calls about death I got at 5 p.m. And I'd be like, why do you call me when it happened? He wouldn't be more or less dead if I waited. Why I gotta burn minutes to tell you something that's gonna be true in a couple hours? Oh, it was a terrible time. It was rough. It was really bad. And texting fell under minutes. And so different phone companies had different plans. So for some people, one text was, a quarter of a minute. One text was half a minute. Some people, if they were being very expensive, a text was a whole minute, right? So it could be a very short text. It could be, hey, that's a minute. Which always felt crazy to me as a kid, because I got my first cell phone later than my other friends, because I didn't have money like that. So I had to buy my own cell phone and support it myself with minutes. And I remember I sent a text and it said, hey, and it would tell you how many minutes had been deducted every time you did something. When you get off the phone, it would tell you like that was 4.5 minutes or whatever. And I remember I sent a text message that said, hey, and it said I used a minute. And I was like, no, that wasn't a minute, because hey is hey. Hey, those weren't a minute. That I said hey, I didn't say hey. How is that a minute? How is that a minute? And there was nobody to argue with, because this is what killed me. Because sometimes when you try to call customer service to tell them they mess up your minutes and they deducting wrong and everything, it costs minutes to call them. So now I'm on the phone with them like, y'all need to hurry up and pick up, because it's minutes. Minutes are happening now. And do these minutes count? They're like, sir, these minutes count because you're on your phone. I'm like, no, but I'm talking to you about fixing my phone. They were like, yeah, but you know, you're on your phone. I was like, oh, I think she's trying to keep me on the phone right now. I think she's trying to burn out all my minutes, because then she keep leaving and coming back and leaving and coming. What are you doing? Are you doing errands right now? Why can't you just continue the conversation and answer my question? So she got me burning through minutes. Anyway, text messaging used to sometimes be a whole minute for one text, right? And in a weird way, I wish we could go back to some form of limited text messages. We all get too much. We all get too many. Because this is the other problem with texting that I have now. Now that it's unlimited, people feel like you're obligated to them because they text you, because they feel like it's the same as talking. So as soon as they text you, it doesn't matter when they text you, as soon as they text you, that's like them being like, hey. But when you don't say anything for several hours, like if I said hey to you right now and you just stared at me, it'd be rude. It'd be rude. But you're also living your life. You're not obligated to say hey to me because I said hey to you. You're living your life, right? But then you'll text somebody, especially if it's important. You'll text somebody, and then you'll be like, all right, they'll text me when they get to it. I hope it's soon because this is important. And then maybe you're just on your phone. Maybe you open up Instagram or something, and then you see a new post, and then that new post is less than a minute old. I'm like, okay, that's after I text them, so they on their phone. They on their phone, and then most phones, a lot of those iPhones have that red thing that has red. I don't know why people are snitching on themselves like that. That's crazy. Because sometimes people tell me stuff in a text message I don't want to respond to. So then why would I put read by Josh at 6:03 and now it's 7:42 and they know I read it? And it was important. We need to go back. I don't know. Everything's always about more. Sometimes more is too much. You know, what would our lives be like if there was a limit, a built-in limit, you know, where you could only sin? I'll give you even a wide margin, high ceiling. Let's say 200 text messages in a day. I don't think most people even hit that. 200? But if you live in a hectic life, you know what I mean? 200 is a pretty high ceiling. I had friends being like, no, 200 that's way too low. And I was like, do you go to work? What do you mean low? What are y'all talking about? You know? I think it should be like very low. I think it should be like 25. 25 feels reasonable to me, because now there are gonna be people who hit you up, who get your number. You don't even know they have a number. They hit you up, and you're like, I'm not gonna waste a text on a who is this? Because that's what I used to do during the minutes, right? You used to get a text, you don't know this number, you're like, who is this? Your phone's like, that was a minute. It's like, no, it wasn't a minute though. That doesn't take that long to say, who is this? I just said, who is this? And they text me. Shouldn't it call? Every time you explain how tech used to work to a young person, I've said this before, but it just feels like the dark ages. It feels like it feels terrible. Like, they would also charge you if somebody texts you, and I'm like, that's not my fault. I can't control that over there. Because now you double dipping. It should charge the person who sent the text, and then the person, I'm just a listener. I'm a bystander. I wasted 5 minutes one time not knowing somebody. They were like, hey, how you doing? I was like, who is this? And they were like, it's Greg. I was like, I don't know a Greg. And then they were like, oh, sorry, wrong number. 5 minutes. What is my life? Charging me to open it like it's a secret every time. Your phone used to do that. It used to be a phone you could buy at the Dollar Tree, and And then you put like 600 minutes on thinking that's a lot. That's a lot. 600 minutes. That's crazy. I won't get through that. But then the way they rig it, they send a text message. It says it's from mom because mom is saved in my contacts, right? But then, I'm like, damn, can I afford to open it? I'm on my last 3 minutes. Ooh, my last 3 minutes. And it just says mom, and it says unopened. So the phone is coming like, your mom texted you. You feel like knowing what it's about? What if it's an emergency? What if it's important? Go ahead and open it up. It'll just take a minute. I've thought a lot this week about how like family can be chosen. Like you have your family. You have your family, your people you grow up with and everything, but along the way you find people who you really connect with. You choose them and they choose you and everything. Because the family that you're born into, I'm not saying there isn't massive value in making everything work with your family that you possibly can. I'm just saying that like sometimes look, they're your first crack at like relationships. Do you know what I mean? Like with most people, especially with the big family, if you line them up together, you'd be like, all right, if y'all didn't already know each other, I'm not sure you'd be hanging out. Like, I got cousins that I love dearly, but like, I don't know. They're like athletic. I show up with a Rubik's Cube, but they're like, very cool, very cool. Now, you can tell somebody's not into what you're into when they talk to you all slow like that. When they're like, that's awesome, but that is fantastic. I like that you are into that. Wow. Ooh, I've been hit with wows in my life. Sometimes you get someone that even if you weren't related, if y'all had met, you would have linked up perfect, like understand each other. That real bond, right? And you have the benefit of actually being family, so you get even more time with this person. Like I look at, tell you about Nikki. Nikki was this kid back down south, very big kid, but not like big, just tall. I say big, but I mean tall. He was too tall. He was too tall of a person. It was too much. It was like cartoonishly tall. He was that type of tall where everybody asked him if he played basketball. You know that type of like, I mean, you're just so, do you just love playing basketball? As if it's a requirement to stay that tall. That you gotta start putting in hoop time if you're gonna stay this tall. It's such a funny question. I've never been asked if I play basketball for my height. It's just such a funny question because I can imagine what's going through the mind of a tall person when they're getting that question, because it's such a thirsty question from a short person. They're like, do you play? I mean, you must. Like, you have to. Like, you need this. I need this. I need you to play. Why can't just do it? I feel like that desperation is because you know that they could touch it. It's like, you could touch the rim so easy. You have to touch it for both of us. You have to play. I don't know what the rim feels like. Just please play. I need this. But Nikki was tall, but he was as tall as he was clumsy. He was that type of person you would ask to grab something from the top shelf for you, and then as he's grabbing it, you know, he's got the hype, but he didn't have the grip. So he really just knocks something down off onto your head. You about to thank him too. You looking up. Thank you so much. And so him playing basketball was a disaster. He was very clumsy. And it was insane to watch. Like, I give him a little bit of grace because, like, when he would dribble, the ball did take too long to get back. Like, that's not all his fault. When I dribble, I'm right here. It's a frequent visitor, right? But when he would dribble, it'd just take forever to come back up, and by then he had already run away. Like, he could do that thing, though. He could do that thing where he could palm the ball. That was wild to watch. Just watch him grab the ball and hold it up, like, look like a magic trick of being tall. And he was always getting, like, truly just, like, smoked on the court. Like, even his handles were terrible. You know, he tried to put it through his leg. It would hit his elbow on the other side. Never knew how much pressure to apply to the dribble. So instead of being over here, one, he's over here watching it fly away. And there was one day, I don't know what got into him, but there was one day he was making a drive for that net. You know, he wanted to I guess show off for somebody. And so he's running down the court, clearly traveling. There's no way he was ever gonna. And he's over here with you know, got both hands on the ball, got the elbow out when people get close, you know, the weapons. And then this dude jumps for a dunk. He goes to dunk, and on top of being uncoordinated, on top of being a true waste of height, this young man has no strength in his ankles or calves. So when he jumps for the dunk and he flies forward, there's someone guarding him. And I think even that guy thought he was gonna fly over. Cause look, he didn't do a simple like jump up, you know, efficient dunk. He fully leg spread NBA logo. The problem is he's either pushed or made everybody else get out of the way up until this last person, this guy trying to finish just standing there, right? And because he got no air, because he jumped the height of his own shins, he simply flies into this man. He jumped into him. I've never seen a person jump into another person. Like he jumped into him like he thought he would go through and it, like he thought he would be him. He jumped. This guy's got his arms out and he jumped into him like it was the end of a war. Like they were finally reunited. This man, holding the ball in the air, just jumps forward, flies into this dude, and never in the history of street ball, I don't think anyone's ever seen anything happen like this. This man probably expected Nicky to fly over him, but when he just sort of kept coming forward at the height, basically the height he was already at, but with his legs spread. Never in the history of basketball on a public court has this happened. He flew in just trying to dunk, and then this man caught him. I need to show you then. He caught him. brought him into his arms. Didn't fall backwards or anything, just straight up caught him because Nikki started jumping too far away, so he didn't have the momentum to knock somebody down. And then Nikki, this fool, still dunked. Still dunks. And then had the nerve to let go of the rim. Putting all his weight back into this man's arms. Craziest part about it, he was still talking trash the whole time. He's still being held midair, talking crazy to everybody on the court. This man is up here. That's right, this is my house. Y'all get out the kitchen because I'm cooking right now. Can't nobody touch me. Sir, someone is touching you right now. So uncomfortable. And you know, Nikki was tall, he wasn't big or anything, but he was big enough to recognize that he was bigger than the people around him. And so he was somebody who truly fit that stereotype of like gentle giant, like didn't want to hurt anybody, didn't want to mess with anybody. In fact, his need to be gentle actually made him pretty easy to bully. Kids that were way smaller than him would give him a hard time, you know? And there was, I'm sure, a bit of a fear taken up for himself because, you know, he didn't know what could happen. And so Nikki, very sweet, very easy to bully. You didn't have to worry about Nikki. You had to worry about his sister. His sister, first of all, his sister, not tall at all. Nikki got all the height in the family. But his sister would see somebody messing with Nikki, and she would come out of nowhere. Truly nowhere. There was this one time that this kid was pushing Nikki around, right? And then finally, Nikki had enough, and he pushed this other kid back, right? But then that kid, you know, when somebody's bigger than you, you figure they can take whatever. This kid runs back up, pushes him down as hard as he can. Nikki falls to the ground. We don't know where his sister came from. We don't know where she just came running. I need to be clear how, we didn't know where she came from because she didn't go to the same school. So when did you start running? Running. Then jumps in the air. We all give credit for that Sparta kick to the movie 300. But I had seen it years before. She got a running start, it jumped up in the air, and then foot first walked up this kid. Remember the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where they just sort of kick, and they never came down? Yeah. Oh. It is tough when you move out on your own for the first time and you're broke, but you're also young. Like, I had the benefit of being young and broke, so I didn't even realize how broke I was. I wasn't even aware it could not be like this. Because there's a different mindset. I can only speak for myself, but it seems like there was just a different mindset at the time for the sort of standards of my mom's house versus like what mine would be, because I was out on my own for the first time. So I was sort of setting them in real time, like setting these parameters. When you're out by yourself for the first time and you get your first place, this little studio apartment in Chicago, it's like anything. You could do anything, You could put up both Fight Club posters. You could do whatever. You could get the main one and the variant right next to it. There's nobody to stop you. I had an air mattress and everything. Just starting out, and so there are some things that I think other people would have clicked right away. We should do something about it. And it just didn't happen for me. Not in my head right away. Like, for instance, when I would have somebody over and my fridge worked, but it didn't work hard. Like my fridge would do the fridge things, but just not all the things a fridge is supposed to do. I'd have somebody over, and then I'd offer them something to drink. I'd grab them something to drink, and I knew the cold spots of the fridge because the whole fridge wasn't cold, right? There were some, like the crisper was crispy. The crisper was perfect. Anything you really wanted to keep, you put in the crisper. But other stuff, you just had to be like, well, that's just a regular shelf. That's basically a cabinet shelf. And so I remember there was this one time that invited somebody over, poured them a drink, and then they asked for some ice, and I was like, okay. So my freezer doesn't make ice, like it doesn't. And what I meant was like my freezer didn't get cold. Like my freezer was actually hot. Like I don't know what coil was switched, but the top was hot. A regular fridge was fridge, but this over here was basically a microwave. And so I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't make ice in there. And they were like, oh, okay, do you have an ice tray? Let's just pour some water. Well, I don't mind waiting. And I was like, oh, you thought I meant I didn't have an ice maker. Okay, so what I'm saying is that like it won't exist in there. Like it's too hot. Like that's why I don't have anything but bread in there, because it's very warm. And they weren't being rude, but they just sort of said it, I guess, as they were thinking it. They were like, you can't afford ice? And when somebody points something out to you like that, it does remind you where you are when you can't afford just certain temperatures. That's a level of broke. That's a breakthrough of broke, to not be able to afford enough coal near you. And so when you're in a situation like that, just like when I was on my own and was sort of getting my bearings around being out in the world and what things I needed to fix first, because I still need a bed. I finally got a bed, and when I got that bed, okay, first of all, got the bed off Craigslist, so don't. The frame. I say whole bed as if it's a whole bed, because if you just got a mattress on the floor, that's a mattress on the floor. You can't call that a bed. So I got my bed frame off Craigslist, and then bought a mattress and everything. That took some saving. For a little while, the air mattress was on the bed frame. Because if you didn't look too fast, it looked regular. But that bed frame, man, no wonder they were getting rid of it. Every time you sat down, you felt like you were hurting it. The entire time I had that bed frame, I'd be in my head thinking like, why does my bed's back hurt so much? And every creak is just, it just sounds like you don't have your life together. You sit down after a long day of work and you hear, how am I gonna get any restful sleep with you complaining the entire night? I'd move my leg and the bed would do everything except scream. But when you're in a situation like that, and let's say you're even younger, let's say you're like Nikki and his sister, especially in the neighborhood that they were in. There's a lot of things coming at you, maybe faster than you know how to process. You know, you're in a neighborhood where there's gangs, where there's gang violence, and obviously after the fact, people ask themselves, why would anybody join a gang? You know, why would anybody get involved? And it's a question that's more important to ask before anything happens. You know, after these decisions have been made, it's very easy to just be flippant about it. Why would anybody? Maybe this is somebody who's been beat up their entire life. The only time they don't get beat up is when they're with these people. For better or for worse, you know? Maybe these people aren't the best to have around, but at least I'm somewhat safe. It's a different type of danger hanging out with them. There's a present danger I know by being alone. You know? Maybe there's some sense of, this is the only way I'm going to be able to make some money. These guys already know a way. These guys always have money on them. You know, there's a false perception that maybe this is the way. You know, they put a gun in your hand. I'm sure you feel powerful. They tell you run the block. I'm sure you feel powerful. It's not until something actually stops you that you realize you're not all powerful. Like you look at a kid like Nikki, and you know, it's not like it is in the TV shows all the time, where there's just somebody seeking out, oh, that guy looks cool, I'll follow him around, maybe he'll let me join or something. Some people are coerced, some people are threatened. You know? You live here, you see us doing work, maybe it's time for you to do some work. They recruit them. That's the thing that people leave out. They recruit them. You know? And so maybe a kid like Nikki sees, though, this isn't it. I don't know what is, but this can't do this. So then a kid who almost never takes up for himself, a kid who's very gentle, although he's very tall, waste of tall, not using the tall right at all, but that's beside the point. A kid like Nikki gets approached, tells them, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. I just live here. I'm not. And then it's his sister, of all people. It's his sister that also looks him in the face. Don't talk to my brother. You leave him alone. Right? Don't come near him. And when you're dealing with a gang, you're not dealing with a lot of reason behind decisions. But this kid who's known for being soft, telling you no like that to your face, and his sister backing him right up every time she sees you all around him, that won't do. You tell them no even after they start messing with you. And then it's someone like your sister that takes up for you. There's someone like your sister that tells them to their face, not as big as you, not as scary. You leave my brother alone. It takes a lot of bravery to do something like that. You leave my brother alone, knowing how dangerous they are. And then, maybe, one day, they decide to send some sort of message, right? And they pass your house, and they shoot at your house. But you're not home. Your sister's home, though. And those bullets that may have even been meant for you, whether they were meant to send a message or they were meant for you, they don't hit you. You're not there. They hit your sister. They took your sister. You see how a gang works? They'll take everything that they can as long as you let them. They'll do whatever they like as long as they feel like nobody can stop them.
Amen.
You know?
Love you, Josh.
I'll back up real quick. Being out on your own and broke, you have to decide what professionals you're going to spend your money on, because all the professionals you can't afford. So sometimes you got to go to a professional who says they're professional and doesn't feel very professional. Like, for instance, I require some things from a professional. Like, some of it may have nothing to do with their capabilities at their job. They're just things that make me uncomfortable. Like, I don't like when my professionals in some fields take cash. That makes me nervous. If you go to the doctor and you get done and they don't ask you about insurance or anything, they're like, all right, it's gonna be $250, so you can do 10s and 5s. I could break 100 if you need change. Some things you just want to have taken care of ahead of time so you can just enjoy the experience of being in the presence of a professional. I don't want my pilot to take cash. What if I don't have cash on me? Even like the nonverbals sometimes. Sometimes a professional will let their feelings escape, right? They won't be very professional. Just let it out as it happens. That is very jarring. It's terrifying. I don't ever want that to happen. Imagine you in court. You're in court, and then the prosecutor says something, and then your lawyer turns to you and goes, "What's wrong with you? Everybody heard that. You couldn't keep that in." No, because you know what it is whenever people, they're supposed to be professional, emote like that, it lets you know that they also don't know what's supposed to happen. Now we're living in chaos. GIB, if the people who are supposed to know don't know, if the people who are supposed to act some sort of way don't know how to act that way, now we're in chaos. Like, now we're in chaos. Like, now we're in chaos. And I remember one of the earlier times I felt like this was with my dad. I was in the car with my dad, and we got a flat tire. And he went to the trunk, grabbed the spare, changed the tire, and then the car wouldn't start. I'm not saying at 7 years old, I knew how to change a tire. I was just confused why, after changing this tire, the car as a whole gave up. The car that was running before, and then you changed the tire. Here's the thing, I'm not a mechanic, not an engineer, but I look at tires like shoes. And if somebody's shoe fell off or like wore down to the point they need another shoe, and then you gave them that shoe, and then they were like, oh, I don't walk anymore. I think you would be confused. I think it's fair that I was confused. I was like, all the wheels good. Maybe try it again. He's over here. Nothing. You know. So then he had to go into a store, find a phone, because this is, you know, I'm like a 90s baby. I didn't have a cell phone for a long time. My dad didn't have a cell phone for a while. He had to go into a store and ask to use their phone to make a very embarrassing phone call. To call whoever he called to be like, yeah, I changed the tire. And now my car doesn't want to be a car anymore. And I remember I asked him, like, what are we gonna do, Dad? And in a moment of honesty, because to be fair, your parents are your parents. They're not professionals. They should be allowed to be human, you know? But I asked him, what are you gonna do, Dad? And he was like, I don't know, son. And I know I was little, but even looking back, I had too strong of a reaction. I was like, you don't know! That was a little too much. But in my mind, in my like little bit of life experience, I was like, uh-oh, we are stranded here then. What do you mean you don't know? And then someone came and they gave my dad a jump. Now, this is the first one I had ever seen. And once again, me being a kid, I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I was like, that's not gonna work. Y'all just doing stuff now, like this. Oh, we're gonna put the wire in the wire and and then it did work. And when it worked, to my credit, I was like, man, my dad's a genius. Who would even thought? You just wire up to another car and it'll be a car again. But yeah, that feels like where we are, where, do you know what I mean? Where there are people that are supposed to know, who even say that they know, but when they start telling you what they know, you realize they don't know anything. And that's very scary. That's terrifying. Sometimes I don't even know what press conference I'm watching and what it's about. I watched this, there was a press conference where there was a press conference where Marco Rubio wrote something down and slid it to Trump. And like, I don't know, man, I've never seen somebody so locked in to being evil and so checked out of life. Because this dude gets slid the note, and then there's no way Trump has an internal monologue. We must know every thought that comes through his head, because Marco Rubio went ahead and passed him the note, and then he says out loud, do you remember in English class when your teacher made you like read Shakespeare, but then somebody in the class had to also read the stage direction just so everybody would know where we were at? Things that should clearly be in his head get spoken out loud. This dude gets slid the note and then says out loud, Marco Rubio just passed me a note. You gotta watch the video from the specific angle I'm talking about, because it exists. I saw it when it happened, but the other angle that's like centered on Trump doesn't do it justice. There's an angle that's like to the right of Trump, there's a camera, and you see when Trump says Marco Rubio just passed me a note, you see Marco Rubio go, and then Trump reads the note out loud for everyone. And that's, once again, maybe something he meant to do in his head, and his mouth never stopped. Because then he's like, it says Chevron. Go back to Chevron. He read the note out loud at a press conference, I'm assuming, where they're talking about oil, and doesn't seem to know what this note means. Go back to go back to Chevron. All right. I'm surprised he didn't just keep talking. Like, go back to Chevron. Oh, I've never worked there. Interesting. Okay. Like, he so clearly did everything that should have been in his head. I'm surprised this man didn't grab the note. Marco Rubio just passed me a note, bend arm. It says, go back to Chevron. What does that mean, turn head? And look, I don't even know if this is the same press conference, because this is a different clip. There is a point where I don't know if Trump was talking or somebody else was talking or if he was being asked a question, but he just got up from the table and looked out the door. This man over just, Wow. That's gonna be the entrance to the ballroom. Sir, if you don't sit your Biden-built brain down, this is everything you said about Biden. Everything you doing right now, every ounce of it was supposed to be what Joe Biden was like. This man tried to bully Joe Biden the entire campaign with the fact that the auto pen, the auto pen, the famous auto pen, he doesn't know what's going on. Somebody else is running the White House. It's like, all right, look. Look, for all of his faults, Biden was never passed a note. He was never passed a note. It was like, Vice President Harris just passed me a note. No, it's insanity. No, it's so wild. Especially because we're how it all just feels especially insane that how this dementia is affecting all of us. Do you know what I mean? Like I've had people in my life that I love dearly have dementia, and it affected the family, not the country. Not, you know what I mean? Like if your great uncle starts grabbing the remote control for the TV and pressing buttons and putting it to his ear, that doesn't affect Greenland. You know? It's just, I don't know. Sometimes you just want to get the message out. Thank God the internet, for now at least, is like viewable by people from other countries that aren't here, because they can see us also be like, no, every day we wake up, and if you have a smartphone, you probably have your notifications on. Which is not, it's maybe wait. The stuff will be there eventually. You shouldn't wake up to the news. Give yourself a minute. Do you know what I mean? Because like you wake up and then you open your phone and there's all the headlines because the publications were working while you were sleeping, and they have a list ready to go of things to give you Marco Rubio face. There's a big flaw we have now in that the news by headline is like in your phone. It just hits your phone like that. You gotta turn your notifications off sometimes, just for the sake of your mind, because I was checking the time. I just wanted to know the time, and now, well, oh no, I was gonna travel. Looks like we're not friends with anybody anymore. It's devastating. You know? And you see things like you see what happened in Minneapolis. Yeah. You see everything that happened, and it it's sad and fascinating that no matter how many angles come out, no matter what people are watching, no one's really changing their position. And I think one of the main reasons is that there are many people that are trying to argue the legality, and everyone else is trying to argue the morality, you know? We're not speaking the same language about these things, which is one of the main reasons we're not getting anywhere. And I think that, look, if your entire moral compass is based on what the laws are currently at the time, I think that's a very weak compass, because all of the good that has ever come to this country and to people in general was through change. It was through adjustment. It was through figuring out what met the moment the best, you know? There's no, to me at least, there's very little good in just saying, well, that is the way it is. No. It's like, that's not enough. Every benefit to your life, every single benefit to your life came through some sort of change. The powers that be weren't just waking up one day and then thinking, oh, well, we probably should do a little better. Sadly, that's not how that sort of like arc of justice bends. Usually bends with pressure, you know? Trust me when I tell you that J.D. Rockefeller or, you know, Carnegie, any of these robber barons, they weren't laid up at night figuring out how to start a union. You know? All these things come with time. You know, you can make whatever legal argument you want to make. That is not what people are not arguing for some sort of like Section 3, Article 5 of some. They saw the video. You saw the video. And I personally think one of the reasons to argue the legality or to make the status quo your moral compass is because you're either not affected or you think that if you play ball, it won't come for you. It won't affect you, you know? And that's just not the case. Now we are where we are because they needed something. They passed this bill that is going to really devastate a lot of people. Yes. You know what I mean? They passed it a while ago and they're hoping you don't remember. In fact, they're looking for something. They need something new. It can't be the old stuff because they said they fixed all the old stuff. Yes. Right? So they need something new. You know, they passed this bill that lets AI companies off the hook, that rolls back a bunch of environmental protections, that slashes your health care, and they need something new, which is why they landed on Somali daycare fraud. No, you know Somali daycare fraud, the most lucrative fraud of all time. It is the fraud that... It's honestly the fraud that the world turns on the axis of. It is the most prevalent fraud that has ever existed. If only Walter White had known about Somali daycare fraud, it would have been a very different show. No, they need something new because they're hoping that you'll forget that they can't actually, and they don't have plans to, and the things that it would take they're not willing to do to improve your life. They're not going to do it, you know? They're all in the same pool, so they're not going to tax their friends, you know? So what can they do? Well, they can't improve your life. They can't do it, but they can make everybody else's life miserable. Like they could make everyone else's life worse, and then that's equality. Yeah. It's like when you're it's like when you're dating somebody that sucks, and then they are like, yeah, but other people suck too. You'll sit them down and tell them everything that you feel like they are doing wrong in the relationship, and they're like, everybody does that though. Like if it's not me, it's just gonna be somebody else forgetting your birthday. That's gonna happen. Because you see what happening. You see how panicked they genuinely were. You know, they sent these guys out. I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but as a country, we are like broke. You know what I mean? We are like, because their bill also adds to the deficit. And we're very broke. And not the government, I should be clear. The people. Like the people. I know people think it's the same thing. But people from other countries, just so you know, it's not the same thing. The country, as in the government, is doing fine. They just found a bunch of oil. It's the people. It's the people who are struggling. It's the people whose groceries prices and whose healthcare costs are skyrocketing. It's the people who have less to show for the work that they do. And it's the people losing their jobs, getting their government jobs slashed and getting let go from companies and everything. And so they need something. We can't afford, in the bill, $29 billion for ICE. We cannot afford ICE any more than I could afford ICE. I can't believe $29 billion. I mean, but this is my thing, I guess, is that you watch something like what's happening in Minneapolis, because it's not just one instance, it's not just one thing, you know? Because the same day that Renee Good lost her life, a high school in Minneapolis was pretty much just attacked by ICE, like pepper spray. They pepper sprayed kids, you know? You look at what happened in Chicago. They pulled kids out. They pulled all these people out of this building. It was just a show of force. It doesn't look like there were really any convictions out of that. It was pure harassment, you know? People talk about comply. People talk about what is legal, but really think about what's moral, you know? I'll tell you right now, if you just sort of go with the flow, you go with the status quo, you just simply comply over and over again, you know, nothing really changes. Not a single thing. Because once again, the people who have everything don't really think about breaking you off a piece. That's just not how it works, you know. They weren't up at night figuring out, oh, you know, maybe a minimum wage would be good. You know? I'll tell you right now, if all you do is comply, if all you do is hope that things change or get better, but you go along with everything as it stands, it doesn't happen. If everyone that came before me had just complied, then I probably would have entered this theater, any theater, through a colored section. You know, every good thing you have in your life is a product of someone else's struggle. You know? You see everything that's happening. And it's not about what they say it's about. You know? People talk about coming over the right way, doing it the right way and everything. Meanwhile, the people that say that don't even actually know what the right way is. Not top to bottom. The people trying to do it know. But they don't even understand the significance of yanking people out of a hearing that's their immigration hearing that they showed up to do it the right way. You know, you're just jamming people up for the sake of doing it. Now, be clear here. It is not about Somali daycare fraud. Even the narrative building, even what happens next. Then the president makes a statement. There's no way he saw the video. I'm not even saying that because I think that there's some like moral core to. I'm saying that because what he said, he was like, this officer was run over. He's lucky to be alive. She ran right over him. I mean, he basically exploded. And he had the wherewithal to put himself back together again. Reconstitute his body. Amazing stuff. No, you see how they paint this person immediately. You know, they need their narrative more than anything, because if the narrative falls apart, then everything is exposed. And if it's all exposed, you start to blame who's worth blaming. It's never been more important to know all of your rights, to know all of them. And you know, it's never been more important to know the difference between a judicial warrant and an ICE warrant. Like, a judicial warrant is something signed by a judge, and the judge signs it, and it means they can come in. Because the judge wrote the thing, we need to go get you. And a lot of times when they have a judicial warrant, they don't even knock. They just sort of come in. It's not really up for discussion. An ICE warrant is a thing that ICE wrote, that they may show you, and it may even be part of narratives that happen for the future, where, well, they had a warrant. Which warrant? It's important to know, because ICE having a warrant is like me writing myself a sick note. You know what I mean? I've done it many times. I've had to write my own doctor's note many times, and every time I gotta write my own doctor's note, the story, I do too much. The story's like unbelievable. Like, usually a doctor's note is like 2 sentences, because doctors don't even want to do it, but sometimes employers or schools require it. But then I would be doing, oh man, I'd be doing too much. I'd be like, ooh, what a brave boy. I can't believe he's making it through, you know? Don't just go easy on him. Applaud him for his courage. It's very important that you understand what's happening and what could happen next as a result of it. So often our lawmakers, and even some of us with the best of intentions, address things as they happen. We don't cut them off ahead of time. Like, I watch the things that happen with ICE, and they're not cops. They're these federal agents that are there to kidnap and disappear people. That is the point. It's the entire reason that Renee Good isn't with us. And it is more than fitting that these people, that this administration would be the enemy of good. Like, you're watching it happen. And there's a sort of like collective trauma around it, because it's just happening over and over again. It happens every time that you watch it. I don't know, it reminds me that it's important to choose as much family as you can. You choose to protect your family. Choose to protect people that when you were born you had no relation to, but you found each other. There's nothing more important. Because when they didn't see Nikki the first time, they went ahead, spin the block, let's go back around, shot through. They do the same thing to us. They do the same thing to us all the time. You know, several years removed, but not a mile away from where George Floyd died. And what happened then? We marched, we protested, we begged, worked as much as we could for some sort of change, and then several years later, they spin the block, right? They took, and they'll take as much as they can, take as much as you let them. And look, there are people, right? There are people who will never see your side of things. There are people who are not working for you. They work for whatever corporation funds them. They work for whatever lobbyist gives them the most money. But the people that you vote for, the people that you put in power, it is important now more than ever that you stay on their neck. You stay on them. Because when things like this happen and there's this sort of like rhetoric around, you see how people feel one way or the other, and you see politicians try to do their spin. Obviously there's a way that we expect everybody to fall, but it's important to remember that usually ICE funding is bipartisan. So you only control the people that you vote for, but you got to stay on them. You never let up. Being a public official should be a headache. You know, I genuinely, it depends on who it is, but I usually hate to see them smile. I'm like, why are you having a good day? Because you wonder, you see these videos of people just going about their life or trying to do the right thing, being violently met by ICE agents. There's always a narrative to fall back on later, even when the narrative is a lie, even when it gets disproven. There's always some sort of narrative to fall back on. And it makes you wonder, why would anybody even join up? Why would anybody join this thing? And then you see, it's like, okay, economically tough times, signing bonus, maybe I've been picked on my entire life and now I get a gun, maybe. They tell me that I run this area, I can go wherever I want, I can do whatever I want, finally have some power, and you see what they do with it. You watch what happened. And it's important to remember that you can choose family, you know? You can choose the people that you stick your neck out for. You can choose the people that you protect that mean as much to you as your own life. You can choose people. And it's important to keep making those choices daily. The stronger you make those choices, the stronger the bond is, the less that they have. Because remember, it's not as if ICE is some sort of army or something. They actually have wildly low numbers. That's why they need the police to come back them up everywhere they go. That's why all it takes is being pelted with snowballs and they leave. It was snowballs. It was snowballs in Minnesota. Snowballs in Minnesota is basically the weather conditions. So that's. And so when you watch what happens, it's important that we as people take it upon ourselves as best as we can. As much as we can sacrifice, because everybody can't take on the same amount of burden. I understand that, but as much as you can do, you do it and you make a better world. That's the way forward, you know? This was not the first ICE-related shooting. This was not the first ICE-related death. And it's not just gonna go away. I think about those kids that are left behind now and how it's important that they be chosen as family to take them in. Because you watch that video, you watch everything that happened. You can watch people litigate all they want, but once again, you're talking about people who are arguing for the legality versus people who are arguing the morality, you know? They did what they did because they knew that they could. You know what I mean? And it's important that people left behind, like that child, those children, they become our responsibility. Because make no mistake, they took our sister. Do you see how a gang works?
Have y'all been keeping up with this Jonah Hill thing? Yeah. Okay. So real quick, if you don't know what it is, Jonah Hill's ex put out a bunch of his text messages to her while they were dating, and she was a surfer. She still is, and then they were dating while she was surfing, and it's him being like, "Why you gotta surf around men, and why you got?" And she's like a surfer and a surf instructor. It's like, "Why you gotta surf with men, and why you gotta post pictures of yourself surfing in a bikini?" And all this. So it was all this shit like that, right? And it just you can see a decline in the text messages where he's clearly so worried about being cheated on, he's not making sense. He's like, why you gotta surf with dude? Because then if you're surfing and then he's surfing, what if y'all start surfing on each other? You know what I mean? And then like y'all are surfing together, and what if you get surf in your mouth? And then now you were just covered in surf, and you come home and you're like got surf on you. I was like, nigga, are you all right? Like, you know, so there's been a lot of backlash about him being narcissistic and misogynistic and everything. And I think Jonah Hill committed a cardinal sin. He really did. Jonah Hill told a woman what to do while being an ugly motherfucker. Can't do that shit. You cannot do that shit. Like, look at the text and then look at his face. You cannot tell anybody what to do, sir. That's too much bass in your text right now for that hairline you got, you know? I'm not gonna lie, if John Hamm had sent those same texts, if John Hamm was like, I don't want you talking to any other men, you'd be like, okay, daddy. Like, yes. Did y'all see the Alabama brawl? Yo, who knew Wakanda was in Alabama? That was crazy. You know, that was wild. So many people came out of nowhere. That shit was like Black January 6th. That was like, that was crazy. If you didn't see the video, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll explain it really quick. Basically, there was this one guy. He was an employee of the place, right? And he was like asking these people to move their boat, you know? So it was a black employee, but he was asking these people who happened to be white that had the boat to move their boat, and they wouldn't move the boat. I don't even know if this part is true, but I heard that the riverfront boat that was waiting to dock had been waiting for like 40 minutes because these people refused to move, right? So finally he just keeps going, like, you gotta move the boat, you gotta move the boat. They get out of their boat, they're cursing at him, and he's not backing down. He's like, you have to move the boat, I work here, you have to move the boat. And then they just keep cursing at him. Finally they put hands on him, and then they start fighting him. And he did his best. He held his own for quite a while. So it's not like they beat his ass, but they were clearly ganging up on this dude, right? And, you know, a lot of people, as soon as they saw the video, they got upset. I got upset once. I thought it was going to bum me out just seeing like 5 white dudes ganging up on this like middle-aged black dude and everything. And some people were upset about the racial part immediately. But I'm not gonna lie, I was distracted. I wasn't. I didn't hate these people because they were ganging up on them and they were white. I hated them because they had a boat. You know what I mean? This isn't just a race thing. These rich fucks with a boat are trying to beat up a working class person is insane. You know, made me furious. And then they started fighting them, and then like other people came, and you know, a lot of black people already saw what was happening. So then when the riverfront boat docked and other black people who saw what was happening, they all just swarmed. It looked like, like that one episode in Game of Thrones where, you know, they were losing, but then just more just came down the mountain. It was like, I was like, God damn, okay, wow. Send in the troops, apparently. I should back up. When the fight started, the initial fight where the dude was getting ganged up on, he just threw his hat. Just threw it, and that almost felt like a signal. That was, as a black person, I didn't know that was our call to arms. I didn't know this was like, oh, okay, all right, we go now. You know? That was wild to begin with. Then it was crazy because then so many people swarmed in, it turned into a huge brawl. And I don't know if you saw a video, but there was one person that wanted to help when they saw him getting jumped so badly that this nigga swam. Jumped in the water. From the camera angle, we don't know where he came from. I'd like to think he came from Africa. I'd like to think he started swimming 6 weeks ago in preparation. Because look, if you know, the history of black people swimming, especially in the South, you know that we're not known for it. You know what I mean? And so I'm not gonna critique his swimming because I was just happy to see another black dude swim. That's just, every one of us swimming is a W, okay? But I do have to comment because he wasn't swimming normal. Did you see him swim? He wasn't swimming regular. This was not regular swimming, right? This man wasn't swimming to the fight. This man was punching the water till he got there. I knew he was gonna whoop ass when he got out of the water because he would. I've never seen someone punch water till they got to their location. That was so crazy. Go back and watch the video. This man punching with horsepower. Like, I've never seen anything like it. And then he gets out of the water, starts whooping ass, everybody whooping ass and everything. So you know that those white people, when it started fighting, then started more fighting, you know they were relieved when the cops got there, but they must have been conflicted because half the cops were black. Like that's a situation where even when the cops arrive, you're like, ooh, whose side are you on? Because I was kind of doing a thing before you got here. You know what I mean? Honestly, that's what's so wild. Because I think also, I've tried to put my mind in. I've tried to put myself in the mind of each person that was in the video in a way. Do you know what I mean? Because that's a terrifying thing. To get jumped is a terrifying thing. Then the person swimming. Then I'm just trying to think about every angle that I could think about it from. I'm not gonna lie. That must have been a huge surprise because you out here ganging up on this one dude with your buddies, and then before you know it, there's just like 50 black people. That's listen. I'm telling you right now. Let's say y'all just blinked, and when you opened your eyes, there were 50 black people behind me. I'm not even saying you'd be scared, but you'd be surprised. You'd be like, wow, that was fast. That's all you'd say. You know? Because that's the thing. That's, I think, the strangest part, one of the weirdest parts, like when you start watching the video, let's say you start watching the video, you had no context, nobody told you what was gonna happen, you hadn't seen any of the memes yet. The craziest thing about what happens is that, especially as a black person, I think some people are curious why black people have been memeing the shit out of it and everything. It's because if you know the South and you know the history of 5 white guys ganging up on a black guy and how that usually goes, you know, especially when they have enough money for a boat. Usually doesn't turn out well, you know what I mean? And so this was a different thing. This is a different outcome than we've ever really seen before, you know? Because I'll be honest with you. Let's say we're in a different time and there's no camera phones and they were able to leave before the cops got there. They would have just beat up that dude and left, you know? And that's my thing where it's like, okay, yeah, whoop their ass, we all laugh, we all celebrate, whatever, but like, fuck up that boat. Like, fuck up the... What are you doing? Like, bust up the bow or something. Like, rip a rudder out, please. I do think that would hurt them more than the ass whooping. They just be standing there and looking like skippers. Not the boat! You know?
You know what's actually crazy? I thought about this weekend. You know what I've never done at all in my life? I had to really think about it. Never once in my life have I Googled Jada Pinkett Smith. So why do I know so much? Why do any of us know so much? Isn't that crazy? I've never even Googled Jada and Will. I've never sought any of this information. I know so much about them, it feels like we're related. It's devastating. I don't know if y'all saw the most recent interview. She's given her 1,000th. And in it, she says that she says so many things. First of all, she said that she sold crack when she lived in Baltimore, which is like believable. That's a very entry-level job in Baltimore. That part I was like, and? But then she also said her and Will have been separated for like 7 years. Which, what? She also said that Tupac is her soulmate. It's like she's going out of her way to hurt Will's feelings now. This is really insane. Tupac is your soulmate. You've been married for decades. My soulmate's a guy from the 90s. And the more I think about it, and the more I listen to Jada talk, the more that I'm convinced that Tupac died to get away from her. Like, I feel like... Easily. They dated for a while, you know what I mean? And then he got a taste of what Will has lived with. And then he was in Vegas and he got into it with some dudes on some gang shit and stuff like that. And they shot at him and he thought about what life would be like with Jada. And so he just leaned into the bullet. She said they haven't been together. Her and Will have not been together since 2016. Which does make the slap more confusing now. That's right, because like that, they haven't lived together since 2016. Now it feels less like you were defending your wife and more like you just wanted to hit Chris Rock. Like, turn that man to a tambourine for no reason. That's insane. It really is. Like, what? Not even defending your wife at this point. You were defending your neighbor, I guess. Haven't lived together since 2016. It also makes the entanglement more confusing now. Watching Will and Jada is just like the Black Inception. You know what I mean? It's just a nightmare and a nightmare and a nightmare. There's twists that nobody asked for. What? Entanglement. Because then, this is my thing. If they weren't together, why'd they have that whole talk
acting like they were together. It made them look worse. Why did they do that? It made her look like a cheater and him look like a cuck, but then they weren't together. So what's the big deal now? I mean, the big deal is that she fucked her son's friend, which is... A lot of people don't know that. That was Jaden's friend. So Jaden over there waiting for play dates and stuff. Ain't nobody showing up like it's a Brazzers video. It's so chaotic. No, it's just very chaotic. And look, I want to be fair for a second. I do want to be fair. Everyone comes for Jada and everybody shits on Jada so hard. And I get it. It's easy because she won't stop talking. But like, some of this is on Will. We can all agree about some of this is genuinely on Will. People blame Jada for the slap. That's not her fault. That's a grown man. And he got up there and he slapped another grown man. You can't blame her for that. It's not like she used her powers. And people blame a lot of the marriage stuff on just Jada. Will is also married to Jada. You know what I mean? He could get a divorce if he wants to, but he doesn't want to. He does not want, and if you pay attention to the interviews, he said it. Divorce is not an option. He'd rather them live as single people and still be married than to get a divorce. Which is weird. It is weird. I understand. For a long time, they were the symbol of black love, especially in Hollywood, right? And that's a symbol that he carefully curated that maybe she didn't want to be a part of, but it's one of the reasons he can't let it go, because it's a failure that he will not accept, right? But to just live as two single people but still be married is weird. It's very odd. Who is it for? It's not for them. They're not together. It's not for us, because now she aired it out. Everybody knows. It's not for the kids, because they're already weird. So who is this for? And like, I mean, it must be rough. I do get it. I have empathy for both of them genuinely, because I think Will, you know, came on strong, wants to make it work and everything, and Jada was just not having it. And a part of me, you know, I'm wrapping up, but just a part of me, a part of me gets it. Because if it's not the life that she wanted, it shouldn't be the life she accepted. That's fair. You're an adult in the world and you make your own decisions and you need to live by them, right? But also, to be fair to her, I don't have a gorgeous millionaire trying to fuck me and marry me. I don't know. It probably seems pretty hard to turn down. I'm not gonna lie. Like if Zendaya walked in here right now and y'all look like you're together, if she told you, bro, if she was like, I want to marry you and be with you for the rest of my life, you'd probably be like, look, I'm in a happy relationship and I found my happiness. I hope you find yours. I'm not saying it'd be easy to say to her. You'd probably say it after I do, but I don't know if y'all saw, but Sam Bankman-Fried was found guilty on all charges. If you don't know who Sam Bankman-Fried is, he's the dude who looked like somebody microwave Shia LaBeouf. He was behind a multi-billion-dollar crypto scandal, and you know, took a lot of people's money. Had a lot of powerful friends, so he could take a lot of people's money. He was found guilty, and you know, he made a serious mistake. He stole money from rich people. Well, when you think about it, it's really all he did wrong. If you steal from the poor, you're gonna be pretty good off. Like, I don't know. This dude is gonna go away for a long time, which is crazy because I don't really understand what he did. But I'm glad he didn't do it to me. I'm like, you ever just, because I never got into crypto because I didn't understand it, so you ever just be so dumb you miss a whole tragedy? You just... Because I saw the whole thing coming. I was having FOMO and everything, and then everybody started losing their money. I was like, maybe it pays to not read sometimes. Maybe it's to my benefit that I have stayed as ignorant as possible on very specific subjects in life. I was having a conversation with a friend from back home, and
so many things work in connection together to get me where I am. I saw this article about this guy. I think his name's, I might be mispronouncing it, but Brian Mwende, and he is in Kenya, and he was a lawyer. He was a fake lawyer, and he won 26 cases straight. 26 cases straight, one after the other. WWWW. And then they finally caught him. And now he is awaiting trial, where I pray he represents himself. That's phenomenal. 26. You got fake, and apparently it's a whole thing. I didn't know this. In Kenya, this is a whole thing. There are a bunch of fake lawyers, because he was just the first one. There's a bunch of fake lawyers that just never actually passed the bar, but they've been practicing. I guess they got a storefront or something. Like, I don't know, you just walk in and you're like, you seem like a lawyer. You know, the only way I know any lawyer has been a lawyer that I've ever worked with was the paper on the wall behind their desk. If that's fake, I have a fake lawyer. That's my favorite story, though. My favorite thing that happened was Paris Fashion Week. If y'all aren't familiar, Paris has Fashion Week, and all these people high up in the fashion world, rich people, celebrities, they all descended on Paris for a week to see and be seen and stuff. And while they were there was an outbreak of bed bugs, which is hilarious. It couldn't be. You gathered all the richest people in the world together in one place and gave them bed bugs? Are we sure this wasn't an activist? You sure this wasn't Greta Thunberg trying new things? You know what I mean? Just her sitting there like, you take a jet, you pays the price. You know, could have been. We don't know. But it was amazing. They gave all those rich people bed bugs. It made me laugh so hard because it's Fashion Week, so half of them dress like bed bugs to begin with. So like, bed bugs probably thought it was mating season, you know what I mean? They were seeing them walk by like, okay, come through, thickness. I'm gonna take a bite of you later. But no, people from Fashion Week spoke to the press and the public. People from the local government spoke to the press and the public and everything. And mostly everyone was trying to maintain a sense of calm the entire time, right? We're very sorry that this is happening. This is not a reflection on our beautiful city. We're doing our best to move people. Just please stick with us, right? But there was one person that was my favorite. The deputy mayor also spoke to the public and the press. But when the deputy mayor came out, he was like, it's an outbreak. No one is safe. What kind of leader says no one is safe? We just came out of a global pandemic where no country's leader said no one is safe, even when no one was safe. That's crazy. Then the mayor, because the mayor came out, she was ready. She was like prim, proper. She made me feel reassured I wasn't even in Paris, right? And then she got this assistant-ass mayor behind her. No one is safe. She's probably like, get him out of here. It's crazy. No one is safe. Every leader I've ever had has tried to maintain a sense of calm in a crisis. I remember when I was in middle school, in English class. And English class was after lunch. And I had seen this kid at lunch, and he had a nasty-ass lunch. I don't know what it was, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, he gonna be sick. That is disgusting. And so then I sat as far away from him as I could, corner of the classroom. And then middle of class, sure enough, his stomach started bubbling. And we all hear it. He just over here taking notes like... looking at us like, y'all don't hear me, right? It's like, of course we hear you. His stomach is loud as hell. And then in the middle class, he jumps up and runs out. And on the way to running out, because he was very sick, he threw up on the back of like 7 kids' heads. And our teacher said, calm down. I know y'all just got thrown up on. Let me get some towels. It's gonna be fine. She didn't say, no one is safe. You see what I mean? I worked at an Italian restaurant that burned down, right? It burned down, and even as the head chef was trying to put the flames out on his back, no one yelled, no one is safe. We just tried to put this man out. Actually, one of my favorite things about when that happened was, okay, so the chef is on fire, right? Like, and then the line cook ran out to the dining hall where everybody else was, and then just yelled to the whole dining hall, "We on fire, motherfuckers!" Which is like as informative as it is unhelpful. Like, he's telling them the details, but not enough to get them moving. Also, we are not on fire, just he is on fire. Some of the building is on fire, but mostly as we, it's just him. He on fire by himself, right? And so no one knows what to do, because even if someone ran in now and was like, "We on fire, motherfuckers," you wouldn't immediately jump up and run. They looked at him and they were like, "So is he on drugs or what's And it wasn't until the chef ran out behind him out the door with a couple flames still on his back that everybody cleared out. He yelled, "We on fire, motherfuckers." He didn't yell, "No one is safe." What would even possess you to put the words to get to the public, "No one is safe"? Like, when I think about it, now that I think about it, I think that was that deputy mayor low-key admitting he had bed bugs. That's what it was. It had to be, "No one is safe." That means I'm not safe. No one is safe. I wish there was video. There's no video of it happening. But you can tell that this is the case because anytime one of our leaders has to speak to us, they're calm because it's not their problem. That's what's happening. I grew up in Louisiana. Our whole state would get slammed by hurricanes, and the governor would come on TV and be like, we're gonna stick in this together, all right? We're all in this together." He's clearly in Massachusetts, by the way. "We're all in this together, all right? Y'all just stick with me, we're gonna get through this." You know what I mean? I think that dude freaked out because it was his problem. It's hard to stay calm when you're in the middle of something, you know? I wish there was video. There's no video. I wish he would just come out, because you know he yelled it. You know, he was like, "No one is safe." It's happening to everybody, including really cool people who don't deserve this. God damn, I wish there was a video just to see him be like, "It's an outbreak, y'all. We doing our best, but this is bullshit." I thought I had it all figured out, you know. I was sexting. And sexting's a very precarious situation. You want to make sure you're sexting at the right time, you know? Because if it's like 8 o'clock, you still got other people texting you, you know? You don't want to accidentally send a text that's incoming to somebody because you opened the thing. You know what I mean? And it's also like, what if you're not that skilled? Like, what if I'm not good texting with just my left hand? Now you texting typos and stuff. It's knocking the sexy right out of your sexting. You know, it's like, "I'm gonna fud your bass." It's like, nobody's into it now. You know? So I had an idea. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. And I didn't talk to anybody about it. I had never heard of anybody doing this, but in my mind, it was the best thing to do. I was like, I'm just gonna speak to text. So that way, I don't gotta worry about the other hand and everything, and I can just like get in the zone and stuff. I don't have to worry about other people texting me and everything. And it went horribly wrong. Because I wasn't at home. I was at my childhood home. So I was in my room, but it wasn't my house, you know? And it was, 9 o'clock or so, and we were sexted. Look, I'll read you the thing right now. This is what. Okay. All right. So she's like, "Oh, okay. And what's good? What would you do if you were here right now?" And then I was like, "Girl, I would tear those clothes off. And Mom, what are you doing in here?" "Mom, I had the door closed. You can't just open the door." I was just coming to see if you wanted dinner.
No, I'm okay. Mom, get out right now. Boy, how you gonna tell me to get out somewhere in my house? I'm sorry, Mom. Please, can you please leave and close the door? You know we don't have closed doors in this house. Which is true. That's a very like black family thing of like you not closing the door in my house. What you up to in there? And I was like, Mama, please leave, please, please leave. And she was like, all right, what's the big deal? I was like, nothing, Mom. Just please get out of here. So anyway, girl, I would say. All right, thank y'all so much. Y'all have a great night.